Hi, welcome to Miniscape. I'm Matthew, and today I would like to share with you two very special miniatures, each with a tale of their own. Every model has a story, but I must warn you, this does not have a happy ending. These were part of my High Fleet Leviathan Tyrannid army. I use the past tense because this army no longer exists. But we'll get on to that. The first model is a Genestealer Broodlord, and not just any Broodlord. He is the big daddy of the, now rare, 2009 edition of Space Hulk. You couldn't buy him separately in any old Games Workshop store. To own this miniature, not only did you have to buy a full game, not only did you have to be willing to part with some serious cash, you also needed a great deal of luck, since the game sold out within days. After that, your only feasible option was to pay the eye-watering eBay prices the scalpers were demanding. I got lucky. In fact, very lucky. I actually own two of these, one from owning Space Hulk 3rd edition, and one from an eBay job lot. At the time, I also had the beginnings of a High Fleet Leviathan Tyrannid collection, but I already had a metal Broodlord for my army, so the rare plastic miniature was relegated to the bits box. And then an opportunity arose. My local Games Workshop was hosting a speed painting event, 3 hours to paint a miniature of your choice. Citadel, of course. And for the winner, a coveted glossy certificate and your model in the store cabinet. It was time for me to flex my painting muscles, and for the Broodlord to finally come out of stasis. There was stiff competition. All the local high flyers had entered, most painting Tau or Space Marines. Everyone had picked their favourite character. No one else had picked a Tyrannid. Long story short, I won first place. I went with the Leviathan High Fleet paint scheme, tried and tested on 100 gaunts and gants. I reckon I could do a better job 10 years later, but realistically, I'd probably spend more than 3 hours on it. Now on to the second and arguably the more enigmatic model. Believe it or not, this is a mycetic spore. For the uninitiated, this is the Tyrannid equivalent of a Space Marine drop pod. I found an entry for these in the 5th edition codex, but sadly, Games Workshop did not produce a model for it at the time. Excited with the thought of fielding one, I spoke to a GW staff member about it. I tabled the idea of scratch building one from craft materials, and he said no, not if I wanted to play with it in store. In that case, the model would need to be at least 80% Citadel parts. He suggested a drop pod for the base, covered in spare parts from the existing Tyrannid kits, such as Carnifexes and Tyrannifexes. So I took on board his advice and got to work. The first part was easy. Buy and assemble a drop pod. The second part, not so much. My bits box was surprisingly lacking spare parts. In lieu of buying more kits, I decided to make casts of my existing parts and copy them with a 2-part epoxy resin. Have you ever started a project and later questioned your life choices? That was me with this piece. Casting with resin is a messy business, and half of the pieces utterly failed, but I saw it through to the end, and, with some green stuff, milliput, and the usual Leviathan paint job, the mycetic spore was ready to deep strike gants and gaunts onto the battlefield. It's just a shame it became utterly redundant in the 6th edition codex, but never mind, I still have a unique model, and I regret nothing. So, where are the other Nids from this vast army, I hear you cry? The truth is, your guess is as good as mine. The Broodlord and the Mycetic Spore are the last two remaining miniatures from what was my primary army. The others I have not seen since 2014. The day before I moved house, I packed up my models in a few boxes. The most precious went in a toolbox with bubble wrap and tissue for padding, and a few others went in some other cardboard box. The latter made the trip. The others in the toolbox were never seen again. Perhaps they were left in storage, or by the roadside, or in a rental vehicle. Perhaps they accidentally got bundled with the rubbish and ended up in the tip. Who knows? I only hope someone found them and gave them the love they deserved. To add insult to injury, I only ever snapped a few pictures of them. As you can see, they look like I took them on a potato. I had a few other units left over, but so much had been lost, and it seemed like such an effort to begin my Nid army again. I sold the rest on eBay, save the Broodlord and the Mycetic Spore. I'm not sure if that was the right decision. I still think about it. It's not like losing a pair of shoes or a TV. Even if insurance had paid out, I couldn't just buy them back again. Sure, I could buy the kits again, but it's not just the financial cost, it's the time I put into painting them, and in some cases converting them. These were my miniatures, utterly irreplaceable, and ultimately, that's why I never touched Tyranids again. The pain was too much. In fact, the following year, I gave up on 40k altogether. That is, until 2020. While I bought and painted more miniatures, they weren't Tyranids. They were Orcs and Space Marines. But that's another story. Still, I have my Broodlord and my Mycetic Spore, and they serve as a reminder of the glorious army I once had. And with that, I had better get painting some more miniatures. Take care, and thanks for watching.